Hunger. Hunger is one of the essential needs for existence. Every animal consumes some kind of nutrient, from the tiniest, most inferior fly species to the big, supreme species of humanity. They all have to eat. Most beings have some restraint to their sense of hunger. However, there are some who cannot control their sense of hunger. They would eat all the time. They would eat everything that they come across. They must eat. They must devour. Sometimes even their own kind. I'm one of those. My name is Matthew Williams, and I am about to tell you my story. My life was pretty much your typical vanilla life before it happened. I used to work as an editor at a local gazette. I was married and I had a 4-year-old daughter. Like I've said, your typical middle-class vanilla everyday life. That was so until the day it happened. It was just another work day at the gazette. Well, at the beginning of it anyway. I was drinking my coffee and reading the articles that I had received, wondering what should I include in that day's newspaper. Frank was walking around in the hallway screaming at his phone. "What are you, a goddamn idiot? Sell it to him for no less than 100,000. After he said that, he shut his phone down and turned to me. He realized I was staring at him and shouted at me, "What are you looking at, moron?" "Nothing, sir," I murmured. "Good," said Frank. "Now get back to—" Frank froze in his tracks. His eyes flickered for a moment and then went completely white, and his irises were gone. His eyes didn't roll to the back of his head, they simply disappeared. Once his eyes went white, his body came crushing and burning towards the floor. "Frank!" I shouted in shock. He was already fallen and lying there motionless on the floor. We called an ambulance. By the time medics arrived, it was too late though. Frank was already dead. All the doctors could do was examine his body and find out what the cause of his death was. They've tried, I swear they've tried, but they couldn't find any possible explanation to Frank's death. No matter what they did, it was all pointless. It couldn't be said he died of old age. Frank was 37 at the age of his death. He had a healthy diet, and on top of that, he was into fitness. One bright day on God's green earth, Frank's eyes whitened and he just fell dead on the floor. The whitening of his eyes bothered me no less than the unexplainable cause of death. During the following day after Frank's death, back at the office, I couldn't concentrate on my work, so I went on Google and typed "unexplainable death, whitened eyes" into the search bar. I found a blog page that describes something similar to Frank's death scenario. Walter Underwood, a young man, 26 years of age, convicted of a few drug offenses, fell dead on the ground in the middle of a street on the 15th of May, 2009. His eyes went white. Pedestrians present at the time of his death noted he was threatening someone over the phone, shouting he would kill the person if he did not get his money. Now, I was knee-deep in this story. I came to find out that the blog I found recorded dozens of other occurrences just like these. People fall dead on the ground, white eyes, no explanation. Maria Jackson, a real estate agent who was selling people unsafe housing units. One of those sales ended up with the death of a young couple. They were standing on the balcony of the new apartment on the 6th floor of the building. The balcony simply fell down. The couple fell to their premature deaths with it. The story didn't stop Maria from keeping on selling unsafe housing units to unsuspecting people. She was about to sell another dangerous unit to someone and her eyes whitened, and suddenly she fell down on the floor of her office, dead. After reading about some more of these strange deaths, I began to notice a pattern. Apart from the whitening of the eyes and great health, all the people who died this way, they were terrible folk. This couldn't be the reason of their deaths, could it? I became obsessive over this. It couldn't be the reason of their deaths. It just simply couldn't. I think I thought this way because I was afraid. I was scared somewhere deep inside that my moral compass might betray me as well. Not that I'm a bad person or anything. Due to my obsession one night, I found myself inside the big archiving building of the Gazette. I went through thousands and thousands of pages, every tiny bit of ink. I didn't know where to begin with, but I knew one thing. I had to find it. I had to find the explanation to this phenomenon. Luckily, the archives were neatly organized. So many categories. One of the files was named Death Cases. I opened the case and began reading about the death cases from the recent years. 2 hours after starting, I was over 100 cases and I still hadn't found anything. I was ready to give up, ready to close the case and simply go home. Maybe if I had done so, my life would look pretty different now. But I didn't, and eventually I came across the case that changed my life. It seemed like a typical case with the familiar pattern, a corrupted businessman who falls to his death as his eyes whiten. However, there were two things in common in this man's case. The first, he wasn't that corrupted. After he was caught once doing illegal stuff, he faced his charges and changed his ways. The second uncommon thing was his eyes returned to their normal state after a short time. Perhaps there's a connection, I thought to myself, and as I continued reading, I found that the man allegedly said God hesitated during the short period of time that his eyes returned to their normal state. A shiver ran down my spine as the pieces of the puzzle all came together. Now the picture was clear. Of course, who could kill people for being evil if not the Almighty himself? After all, it is He who judges the souls of the wicked to an eternal damnation of suffering in hell. I've got to get out of here. I whispered, "What have I done?" That's when I heard a low voice say, "You've gone too deep, Mr. Williams. I cannot let you walk out of this room alive." I looked back and saw a young man in a white suit smiling at me. It doesn't take a genius to understand whom I was sharing the room with. I broke down in despair. I began whimpering as I fell to my knees. As the tears streamed down my cheeks, I began whispering repeatedly, "I'm so sorry." The person before me stared at me surprised. "Why are you sorry, Mr. Williams?" Curiosity is one of the fundamental building blocks of human nature. I didn't dare to answer. "I'm sure you have a lot of questions, so go on. Don't be shy and ask away," said the person with a smirk smeared all over his visage. I've come across a few people in life. Unfortunately for me, I knew that smirk of his was merely there to hide incredible cruelty and maddening bloodthirst. "Okay." I raised my voice slightly, changing my tone from whispering to normal. "Why didn't you punish those people after they died of natural causes? Why did you end their already short and pathetic lives yourself?" The person's smirk grew larger into a satisfied grin. "A reason? You want a reason? Why didn't I wait until these people died of natural causes? Hunger is one of the essential needs for existence. Every animal consumes some kind of nutrient, from the tiniest, most inferior fly species to the big, supreme species of humanity. They all have to eat. Most beings have some restraint to their sense of hunger. However, there are some who cannot control their sense of hunger. They would eat all the time. They would eat everything that they come across because they must eat. They must devour. Sometimes even their own kind. I'm one of those." I was shocked. You mean that you devour them? The deity nodded in sickening approval. Then it hit me, the last part of his explanation. Even their own kind. I repeated in a whispering tone. You are clearly a smart one. He chuckled happily. You're the god. That's not possible, I uttered. Well, I am now technically the god, but in the past I used to be just a god. So what do you conclude out of this? He used to be a god. Now he is the god. He used to be God. God. Not the God. Just God. That means there are more of them. More gods. Even their own kind. I stared at God, frozen with terror. He's gonna kill me. He's gonna devour me. It was all in front of me. The puzzle was complete in front of my eyes, but the sheer fear I've been drowning in clouded the answer from my mind. God noticed my sudden uncertainty. Let me help you, he said. Why do you think humanity transitioned from polytheism to monotheism all of a sudden?